I will introduce Shivani. I just saw her. So Shivani will be coordinating the next panel discussion. And like I said earlier, this is about the use of tools and everything related to tools in customer success. So just a brief bio for Shivani. So Shivani is a professional with over a decade in experience in relationship management, strategic expansions, and process automation. She's skilled in program management and customer advocacy with a passion for combining technical knowledge and strong relationship building to help clients achieve maximum value from the product. And then, Shivani, please come on stage. And then Shivani will introduce the other panelists who will be with her.
Good. I'm Shivani Narula. I'll be completing 10 years in the corporate world this July, and I have been in customer success for the last 8 years. I would like to start by thanking you all. So nice to see some familiar faces. But I'd like to start by thanking you all for taking out time on a Monday afternoon and not letting the Monday blues get in the way of customer success enthusiasm and the energy to talk about customer success processes and functions. So I'll call upon my fellow panelists, Sujoy, Utkarsh, and Sai Shankar, and I'm sure they're here. Can you please come up? Yeah, thank you. So the agenda of our panel is very simple, yet interesting and critical. We are going to not get into a lot of details, but going to just put our experiences and mind together and talk about the different tools that we have used so far in our experiences and what makes a customer success tool successful for all of us. And since there are so many tools in the market already and you have plethora of options, we just thought that it would be the right opportunity and place to just see what has worked for us so far and what could work for us better depending on different factors and different things. I call this very critical. Interesting, of course, it is because customer success is interesting and it has so many different aspects to it. I call it critical because there is no one set rule to use a tool. You can't just point a finger and say that this tool is going to work for me or this tool is the best one. Though they are industry leaders, they could be like, doing really great in the market. But it is deciding on one tool is very, I would say it is very much driven by where you are in your growth, where is your company in the growth phase, and what is success to you, to the target audience, to your industry, and to the product that you're offering, and to what is your business goal at that point in time, which can of course change eventually, but the success tool really depends on a lot of factors which are internal to you other than what is going on in the market and what people are running after. So I'll let my panelists introduce themselves and then we can probably just talk about the tools and take up any questions you have. And it'll be great if all of us can put our experiences together and probably come up with some concrete conclusions about which tool to be used at which stage and for what market. So that is the agenda of the panel today. So yeah, so I'll give it to Utkarsh to get started.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. I am Utkarsh. I'm the Director of Growth for Customer Marketing at Sprinkler. And previous to this, I was with Freshworks, and I have close to a decade of experience in all things customer, if I may say so, and obviously privileged to be sitting here and sharing my experiences.
Hi, this is Sujoy. I had customer success at AppSmith. Prior to this, I was with Whatfix. I see familiar faces here. And before that, I was associated with customer success in Tracto. And I had my own startup as well, where even though I was kind of the CEO, but again, CS was a very core part of my day-to-day job.
Hi everybody, my name is Sai with 20 plus years of experience. Currently with ServiceNow. as a success architect, and prior to this, I was with Wipro as a ITSM head. Thank you.
Great. So I'll also tell a little bit about myself. So I'll also tell a little bit about myself. I started my career as technical consultant and moved to customer success when customer success wasn't even a thing, like when support and other things used to be part of or called customer success. And right now I'm working with Bizongo. Bizongo is a platform to digitize your supply chain solutions. I work for I'm heading their customer success for a different business unit, which is their child product called Artwork Flow. So Artwork Flow is a brand management platform, a brand asset management platform, which has smart workflows to manage your artwork approvals and brand asset libraries and packaging and labeling solutions. So, so that's about us. We'll start by just talking about the different tools that we have used in our experience. I'm hoping to hear some familiar names like Gainsight, Churn Zero, which are the market leaders, along with some tools that could be, could come as a surprise, and we can all probably just keep a tab on them. So I'll give it to Utkarsh to talk about the tools that he has had his experience with, and I'd like all of us to probably just answer one question: why that tool? Like, if we have used, let's say, 2 tools, so why did we and how did we settle on that? Those tools would be something that we'll be starting with, and then we can dive into the details further. I hope that's okay. If you have any questions, feel free to stop us anytime in between, and we'll be happy to just chat about it.
Sure, thank you. So I'll probably take a step back and I'll say I started with using Microsoft Excel and Google Sheets in my in 2014, 2015 when I was working with startups at that time. And then as the ecosystem started getting mature and started using the likes of HubSpot or Salesforce as their CRMs, marketing tools, is when we started manually, because at that time budgets were very lean, customer success was not as important of a buzzword that it is right now, right? So is to take learnings from what the customer is doing on the website, let's say by using HubSpot. Then how are AEs and CSMs like us talking to customers? What has the customer replied or not using, let's say, Salesforce? And then integrating both of those inputs along with support ticket answers, CSAT, into a manual Excel sheet and trying to generate health score, right? So that was good old 2015, 2014 days. At Freshworks, I think, in my experience, because I'm sharing my personal experience, we started using something called as Natero. Most of you might not have heard of it, but it was a North American company which we then went on acquiring, right? And we rebranded it as Fresh Success, and that's the product right now. And as early adopters, I would say it was really refreshing, because change is always a difficult thing, but when we started using the tool, we really realized how many other things we could do and achieve using automation, using workflows, using your automated QBRs, EBRs, success goals with customers. So I would say those are the 2 tools I have used in my experience, and I'll probably pass it. So I would say for us it was just a eureka moment, because from Excel sheets to seeing a dashboard, to seeing reports, to seeing health scores, to seeing who spoke with which customer at what point in time, right? Just having those email logs, which is pretty basic now, right? And understanding if the health score is falling, what is the reason? For example, have they not paid on time? Have they given a very bad CSAT, for example? So to be able to see everything on a dashboard in a screen, to get those nudges from the tool. So I think those were some of the features which were very path-breaking. Other than that, we had no option, but we were told to use the tool. And because we had at that time, I think, 20,000 paying customers when we started using the tool, and probably 80 million in ARR. So that's when we actually adopted the tool, right? This was 2016. So yeah, I think those were some of the reasons. Scalability, right?
Yeah. Okay, I think my experience was kind of similar to Utkarsh's. So I think the first time I heard about customer success was in 2015, and that time, so I was not even in the team. There was no customer success team as such. We had hired someone to do it, but I mean, the role was not very clearly defined. It was just like everything post sales will be handled by this person. Eventually, we started realizing that we need to have more people in the team because we were acquiring customers really fast, and we needed more and more people to just get customers onboarded and then just get feedback from them. These were just the two activities in the beginning. Even though we were a SaaS product, but we thought that even renewals could be handled by sales. Eventually, we started realizing that once the customers started getting a good hang of the hang of the people they are interacting with, they are the right people to even start having renewal conversations as well. So step by step, we started discovering these, and then we started mapping out a list of all the customers in an Excel file. It was basically a Google sheet where we made a list of literally the customer name, customer email address, and the person they are speaking with. Eventually, as a lot of you might have experienced with Google Sheets, right? As you start getting more and more rows, right? If you grow beyond 1,000 rows, the sheet starts getting slower. And then when we started adding more people to the team, the challenge became that not only the sheet became slow to load, okay, also whenever somebody wanted to look up a customer information, they would apply filter. Okay, and if one person applied a filter, other people would go mad. You're like, why are you applying filter over here? And that time Google Sheet did not have this feature that you had your own filters, right? So this became very irritating, and we did not know what to do. So we started Googling solutions to this, and that time we discovered that, okay, there is something called a customer success tool as well. We heard about Gainsight and Totango, and we were like, okay, so there are some tools out there, but who's gonna reach out and talk to them? So we did not know what to do, and I think it was our VP of engineering who was like, okay, I've heard about Totango, why don't we give it a shot? So no, there was no discussion as such. Everyone was just like, was facing so much problem that they're like, okay, whatever you say, if you can get it implemented, we'll use this. Okay, there was no logical decision then. Okay, and then we actually started using that. Since since the engineering team themselves suggested a tool, they were given the task to implement the tool. Okay, so they came up with their own ways to configure. So again, there was no CS ops then because customer success itself was very new, right? So CS ops came later. So then I think it all started as a discovery. So I think as long as you are customer obsessed, you just figure out hacks and you just like try to like do whatever to just solve that problem. So this was my first experience. Okay, this was a company with thousands of very small customers. Next, I can talk about my experience with Whatfix, which was my larger, which had like very larger customers. So there, I think the solution was that at least we had a full-fledged team. I think when the company started, and then we had a simple tool which resembled kind of an Excel sheet. So we have Mano here who was basically helping install the tool, right? So I mean, the reason CSMs felt comfortable with the tool was just because its UI was very similar to a Google Sheet. You can apply filters, you could search things, just very similar to Google Sheets. So it just turned out to be so intuitive that the entire team started using it, and it became a part of their day-to-day life. So again, I think here what worked was being very focused towards who the end users of the tool were. The end users were CSMs, and as long as they find it intuitive, they will use the tool as well as possible to get the job done. Okay. Eventually, when we started discovering more limitations in the tool, then we started having a more, I would say, a longer process for migration. So then we had a CSOps team who would basically gather requirements, evaluate different kind of tools, and go about with a similar process of evaluating different tools and getting, analyzing them and then taking a final decision based on that. So I think once you start getting more and more experience, you start learning them, and the solution may not be the same for all organization. It might differ based on who your customers are, where your CSMs are facing challenges, and you know what kind of service or what level of service you want to provide to your customers.
Thank you. Good answer. So from my perspective, slight digression before I answer your query on tools, right? One other aspect, just to continue to what Arvindji stated, right? Probably another area that all of you guys have to focus on is the ego management part. Believe me, most of you guys come from product experience. And I'm sure you would love to use those jargons. And the customer is more interested in proving that he is the domain expert. So the first important thing is for you to understand the domain. You cannot be an expert, I agree, but at least try to understand basics of that domain so that you can build a conversation with the customer. Because if you notice and if you observe, the first 10 minutes of your discussion, right, is all about he or she trying to prove from the customer side that I know better than you. So I'm sure you would have had this experience, so keep that in mind as well. Okay, now coming back to the tools part, right, from my experience, we were surprisingly slow in this space. I am from ServiceNow, so we developed a product called Impact Digital Experience, and from that particular tool aspect, right, few of the things that we really focused on were most of the things that we learned from the customer, right. Again, most of my answers seem to be repetitive based on what Arvindji has already covered. First and foremost important thing is the value realization part, right? It is very important that your tool is capable to decide on what is the value blueprint. When you say value blueprint, what are the existing or critical metrics that you need to focus on to measure value for the customer? There are two types of metrics. Again, do not get confused with lagging indicators. Focus on the leading indicators. When I say leading indicators, what exactly the business wants to hear and not what exactly your leadership wants to hear. There's a difference between these two, right? Keep that in mind. Number two is prescriptive guidance. The second aspect is, again, I will talk more from my product experience, is that our product keeps getting evolved every 6 months. You would have seen there's a release every 6 months, and we ourselves are very slow in terms of understanding what's going to come in Utah release, what's going to be our next release. Right? It's important that we fill the technical debt, both for the customer as well as for ourselves. Many times, as a success architect, even I would not have that knowledge, which obviously I'm supposed to have. So it's important that you keep upgrading your skills and knowledge. That's the second part. So totally one thing is value realization. See to it that how your product can support in the value realization part through value blueprinting. Have a phase, defined phase, a step-by-step phase. Number two, obviously, would be on your actual value realization. Showcase what exactly is the value that the product is giving. But remember one thing, guys, your job is not to just showcase the value. It is also about giving them the guidance in terms of saying what are the next 4 or 5 actions that they have to take to see to it that they get the enhanced value. Okay, that's the second part. The third aspect is on the training debt. Okay, make sure that people are trained, aware of everything. Right. So that's it from my side for this query.
Those. Is it better now? Okay. So those are some great insights, and I think Utkarsh brought a very interesting point that though we talk a lot about scalability and which are right, of course, customer churn, retentions, automations, all of that, the basic need that a customer success platform should fulfill, or the reason why all these platforms came into being was to help us get rid of the Google Sheets and other things that we were using. So that is the bottom line. Like even today, if any of us looks at a customer success platform, though it could be very fancy, it could have a lot of modules, but the basic requirement is for us to be able to put everything together, for us to be able to just be on one platform together and not rely on Google Sheets and not rely on the ad hoc data sets and all of that. So I think that is one. As far as my experience is concerned, I started off with Salesforce only, which is a CRM platform. And like everybody said, that customer success was too new at that point, and we were only focused on contracts, renewals, and a lot of reactive approaches. The concept of actively engaging with the clients came a lot later when SaaS became a big thing. So from Salesforce, I like when I moved to Wingify, I worked in Wingify, which is on their website optimization product. We started to use Netero again, and along with Salesforce, but change management was a huge problem for us back then because people were very much set in their ways and they would probably shy away from using or moving entirely to a new platform. So that's when we realized that it is probably an internal block, and that's one first thing that we'll need to overcome if we want to move to a CS tool and be more efficient there. So I'd say change management was what drove us to explore more in the market in terms of tools and everything. And then if you get a good customer success manager who is managing that tool for you, like from their team, I think change management can become a lot more simpler, or a better process, I'd say. Then I started to, as I moved to another company, which was Zomentum, it was a 0 to 1 startup. We were using HubSpot, but we started to explore more tools because everybody is now using a CS tool. So the first thing that you get as a CS, probably the KPI or the first task that you get as a CS leader is to find that one tool which will work for your organization. So in Zomentum, I started to evaluate a lot of tools. I sat with people from Gainsight, from Churn Zero, from other startups where they were more focused on data and the needs of a 0 to 1 company. And I finally zeroed on PlanHat, which is a customer success tool based out of Sweden. The first value prop that they sent me was that they'll help my team get rid of Google Sheets and ad hoc work logs. So that like really was a good value prop instead of telling me how do we help you increase your profits and how do we help you decrease your churn. I think the basic problem, if somebody's telling you that we'll solve this basic problem for you first, I think it gives you a sense of confidence and tells you that the person knows the ground and has his ears to the ground well. So I started to use PlanHat, and I found that change management was very easier with PlanHat because the CSM there was very efficient. And my reason for choosing PlanHat over Gainsight was a little, I'd say, human, or probably a little less logical for the rest of you. It was like, I thought that Gainsight is a big organization, probably I'll not get enough attention from them. PlanHat is a new tool, they'll give me more attention, and that's what I require to set up processes and migrate the data. And it turned out well because the other people who were using Gainsight along with me, like my counterparts and all, they had some problem with their support because you would always be their less valued customer if you are, like, that's the reality, right? Like, customer is important, but the importance depends on the amount that you're paying to them. So that really worked out well for me, like settling on a tool which was comparatively new, but was still trying to get feedback and improve and build on was something that really worked for me. And the data migration and everything was another challenge, and I got deeper into it and I realized that that's one part where you should be really cognizant while going with any tool. You should really think about how your data is placed right now and how easy or difficult or technical is it going to be to get your data on the system, because otherwise you'll not be able to derive enough value from the tool, or your time to value will be very high. So that was another thing. And now in Artwork Flow, we are again using HubSpot for the time being, and that is just because of the stage that we are at right now. Although HubSpot is great, it gives you a great pipeline into whatever is happening, I personally find it a little cluttered. And again, the same problem. It is a tool for everything, so when you reach out to their support, maybe it's not very customer success specific. So that is another challenge there. So That being said, I think everybody brought some great points on the table about what they have used and how did they use it. One common thing I find is that all of us started to use customer success platforms when customer success was very new, so we were not really vigilant about what we were going into. We were probably just settling on things that were available at that time or which were told to us by our management. So my next question will be on the similar lines, where I'd like to know, if given a choice today, like now you know there are so many platforms and there are so many options, if given a choice today, what would be your factors of evaluating some tool, probably your top 3 factors, let's say. And why I ask this is because we'll probably then talk about the, what do you need to internalize before you settle, because like I said, that externally there are so many tools and you will get so many reviews on G2, on Capterra, on so many websites about so many tools, but you need to first internalize what works for your company and the stage that you are at. So we would then probably talk about some factors that you need to first establish before you go out in the market and hunt for a tool. So, but before I do that and I throw that question to all of them, is there any other input that any of you would like to bring up, any tool experience or anything that you think would be better?
So I just had a question. In each of you guys' experience, there's a new tool on the market which is creating an enormous change in your existing processes. What are some factors that would make you trust it, or like what are core aspects of that tool that would make you pull the trigger? Yash.
Thank you, Yash. That is almost like the question that I was asking them. So I am hoping to get some insights on them from all of us. Okay. But anything else? Any other thing that we'd like to know? Yeah. We can probably cover both these things while the discussion.
Hi, I'm Smarna. So previously used Gainside and Salesforce in my previous organization, say, but right now we have acquired like 3 companies. We are obviously investing a lot. But when it comes to tool, so what is generally being said, I think a lot of us here can make sense of this. If you're a small startup, say, and you don't want to invest on a tool right now, maybe 6 months down the lane. So you have a CRM which is full-fledged. I don't want to name CRM, but whatever that is. So how do you leverage CRM and slowly transition into the tools of CS? No, I would want to say the company wants to go for a new CS tool down the lane, like 6 months, when they see certain amount of revenue or something on the CS side, through upsells or cross-sells, whatever that is. But right now, they want to use the CRM itself. So how do you convince your leadership that this is the amount or this is the outcome that's coming out of the tool? Because that's how they look at it, I know it helps the CSMs in a lot of different ways, but that's how the business looks at it. Second, if that's not an option, and CRM is the one that is the tool at the moment. So how do you leverage the CRM so that we kind of, at least match 60-70% of what a CS tool can do, and also make sure that we keep in mind that tomorrow if I need to lift and shift to a CS tool, so how do you really put in the data set in CRM?
Very valid question, in fact. Very real problem, I'd say. So does anybody want to take it?
So I would say a lot of these questions obviously resonate with everyone, and a lot of the answers to these questions are something that we were talking about, right? So I would say, it really depends on, as a customer success team, what are your objectives? Is retention the key KPI or the only KPI? Are you also looking at upselling and cross-selling? Is, let's say, customer advocacy and engagement, which is the primary, engagement is primary KPI for you guys, right? So it really depends on how you are structured and what is your KPI in terms of which tool to use and what are the top factors, right? Another thing is, like like how do you, so integration is like for me very important, right? Because to your point, AEs or AMs are using Salesforce or any other CRM, Zoho. They are putting in their deal pipeline for the same customer that you are the CSM of, right? So if that data, or even when they are talking to customers, that is getting logged into the CRM, and is it flowing into the tool that you are using? That visibility, that 360 visibility is very important, right? Then she was talking about data, right? So are customers paying on time, right? Signals from the product to say how many agents have logged in, or how are customers using, right? Those signals are very important to capture and for the CSMs to see. When we talk about, like sir was talking about how it can be like less of human touch, more of machine touch. So for the AI and ML to work, we first need to capture data from product, data from human interactions, and then it will be able to process and tell you, right? So hence integrations and data, I think, are the core of it. Then how easy to use it is and how easy to set up it is another factor. Because like Gainsight is amazing, but if it takes 3 to 6 months to implement and costs you 200K of implementation fees, and you are hardly doing 1 million ARR revenue, does it make sense for you? No, right? I will suggest please use Excel sheets, please use your CRM, do the hard work and get to a stage where you need to be scalable. To invest, I would say invest in people in that particular case. Whereas if you are like a $1 billion company, then you cannot do without getting those signals for 50, 60,000 customers, and to be able to automate and to be able to grow, right? So these will be my top kind of indicators or factors for the choosing.
So maybe I will just, and then sorry. From my perspective, right, we can boast of saying that we became 150 million from the time the product was launched, right? And that was just 1 year back. And it's a very basic stuff, and you might think that I'm just giving a gyan. Listen to your customers, right? That's it. Just listen to your customers, try to understand what they really want to see, right? From my perspective, there were 3 things that helped me decide that this is the product we should go for. Because one, I was able to do a peer comparison, right? Most of the customers are interested in knowing, okay, tell me how am I competing with the rest of the competitors? Fortunately, I had the data. Obviously, it's a big product. So we had all the instances, so we knew how to compare within the banking vertical, or depending upon whichever the vertical is, be it manufacturing or be it whichever vertical that you're talking about, I could really identify how an HDFC is performing when compared to how an IDFC or ICICI is doing, right? Now that is number 1 point. He had the data that he wanted to see. Because he wanted to, again, it depends upon the stakeholders that you're interacting with. My interactions could be with a CXO level. Maybe he's more interested in seeing this type of a data to see how the comparison is with the competitors, right? Similarly, operational data. It could be, again, a different persona that you're working with. Am I able to give that customer the operational data that he or she is interested in, which will additionally give an information where it will throw say it will read through your entire process and say this is the bottleneck. This is exactly the failure point we are seeing common across your particular vertical in your particular module. So it gives me a view saying that this is what is an area where I can implement predictive intelligence, or this is an area where I can implement chatbot, or this is an area where I can figure out some other solution that could be worked on, like process optimization. Right? So we have figured out, example being recently we found out that process optimization was one of the areas. I don't know how many of you guys would be able to correlate, right? Incident management is one common process that you guys would have heard of. We looked into the data, and with the data of the last 6 months, 2 things, right? One is definitely the old data, where you are able to identify what exactly are the failure points that could potentially happen. And if this data is visible to your platform owners from your customer organization, that helps. Number 2, predictive intelligence. It also helps with this particular data to tell what are the possible failure points that could happen. So again, customer to customer, it varies. From my customer point of view, it was benchmarking, peer insights, and secondly, trying to understand what are the automation opportunities that we could figure out. So fortunately, our tool was able to produce that. So that's how I would share my experience.
Yeah, so I'll take I'll try to answer both the questions one by one. So the first one regarding new tool, right? how do you decide which tool to implement? So basically, if you look, like literally what a tool is basically something that makes a person more efficient, right? So I think for me, the first priority will be that first of all, who is the end audience? If the end audience is basically, let's say we are deciding this for the CS team, right? So what is something that will make the CS team more efficient, achieve their metrics more quickly? Now, why this? This is because see, buying a tool is actually, it has become very easy. Even starting using a tool, onboarding experience, everything has become really simple. What has become difficult is change management. What's more difficult is the change in the culture after implementing a new tool into the team. So the change in the culture would rather be worth it. It would rather help me achieve, you know, my desired outcome more quickly, or more efficiently, like more I mean in a more affordable way. So as long as it is helping me achieve these, I will definitely try to give a shot to the new tool, and if it doesn't, then I would rather wait for a later point of time. Then the second question regarding using your CRM until you buy a CS tool. I understand that most of the CS tools right now are either expensive or it takes a lot of time to implement, right? So for an early stage startup, like right now I'm in a very early stage startup, I myself don't use a CS tool, even though we have a CS team and everything. But the reason we don't do it is because, you can, until you become really big, until things do not become unmanageable, it's okay to start with your existing tools, because at least your team will have some certain peace of mind, right? If you introduce a new tool, again, it's gonna change. So now the closest thing that can resemble a CS tool is a CRM tool. So a lot of times you think that CRM is just meant for sales, but I think CRM was never meant to be that way. CRM is customer relationship management throughout the entire journey of the customer. The only reason it's used more for sales is simply because, I mean, eventually the market evolved to cater to them more. But I think a CRM can also be used as a CS tool. All you need to do is, like, let's say for example, you're using Salesforce, right? So you create an opportunity and then you close a deal once the deal is marked. So when you have to create, go for renewal, as soon as it is marked closed won, you can create a duplicate opportunity and just call it renewal and whatever opportunity names. Okay, this is really simple to implement. Everyone understands this. You can apply the same filters and everything like a Google Sheet, and you can also track your revenue and upselling, expansion, everything over there. So I think that so if you are a small company, until you have 3 or 4 CSMs in the team, I don't think you really need a CS tool. It's only after that when you start getting more managers. Let's say you have a manager for APAC region, for example, right? Then the managers need to, delegate tasks and get an overview of the task, look at the metrics, identify more priority customers. For all that stuff, a CRM becomes a bit cumbersome. It's not that it can't do that job. It's not that a Google Sheet can't do that job. It's just that these two are not optimized for this specific job, right? So that's where a CS tool becomes important. So unless you have like 3-4 people, more than 3-4 people in the team, I think it's okay to go with your existing processes.
Yeah, so, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. How important, or like how much do you weigh the culture change while adopting a new tool? Cultural change in your own organization.
I think it's extremely important. Okay, number one thing that you need to focus on, because it is your vision of the organization and the values of your organization that you could personally connect with. If you're buying a product which has got no relationship with what the values of the organization are, it's going to be of no value. I mean, you cannot correlate or connect with the product. For example, I keep repeating back to the same product that we are using, right? For us, one of the values are wow the customer. Number 2 is stay hungry and stay humble, right? So these are just two examples that I'm talking about. Now this product also is designed in such a way that it is important that we bring that intuitiveness for the customer. So that's warp the customer, because depending upon how the customer has been using the product, are we sharing the relevant information to the customer, right? I mean, if you go to a restaurant, you're getting a very large menu, you may not be interested, but what is it that if you keep going to a restaurant and I give you a customized menu saying, I know you have been having Chinese, example, right? And I give you something more specific to Chinese. That means I'm probably wowing you. I'm making you happy because you feel that I'm doing something special for you. So somewhere this product plays a significant role in terms of making sure that it meets your needs and it ties back to the values of the organization. So again, it applies to a large organization. I'm sure it applies to small organizations as well, because otherwise you have not even started this venture. So that's my view.
Okay, so I think if I can conclude the discussions here and just take in account the questions that you guys are asked, I think the reality of the situation is that while going in the market for any tool, we should focus more on the current problems in our organization than achieving goals, right? Because generally our mindset is ki let's get profitable as a CS function. Let's reduce churn. Let's just automate everything at once. So those are the goals that we have in our mind while we get into the market. Whereas the goals should be, what is the problem in hand? Like what are we trying to solve right now? And is that problem scalable enough? Like is that solution scalable enough to handle more than that problem later on when we actually go big, or when we actually have more things on hand. So I think that is one thing, that is one shift that we would need in the mindset while approaching any tool, and not just get enticed by the fancy words floating around in the market. The second thing is coming to her question about the CRM tool. I think that's not a problem, that's the way to go about it, because you need to start from the CRM tool. There is a difference between need and intent. Everybody intends to use a CS tool and just make everything easier for us, and we think that it is it's a magic wand that will make the entire process easy and all of that. But I think we should start with a CRM tool first, know the kind of information that is relevant to us as a company, as our product, create a culture, or create a, just make our teams get into the habit of collaborating on that tool first, putting the right information. Because the most difficult part of a CS function is, or one of the most difficult parts is, the loss of information, because the CSM is going on calls and is the face of the client, while there are so many teams in the back end working for the efficiency and success of that client, product, support, sales. So you need to first get into the habit of putting the right information, putting everything together, get the data sorted, and know what is the right kind of data for you. Even if you get everything together on a CS platform tomorrow, you don't know what to do with those insights, what to make of those insights, it will still fall apart. Like, you'll not derive any value out of it. So first we need to know, while using a CRM tool, that okay, if I'm putting notes on a regular basis, I'm putting call logs, is it helping me be better at engagements? Is it helping me get form better rappos with the clients or not? And then once you know the requirements, you will be more clear in your mind, and you'll have more clarity about which tool do you want to go for, and how is that tool aligned to what you are doing in your company, and how is it going to change the culture, or how is it going to be part of your overall change management. So I think that's what that was the bottom line of everything that we all said. The last thing is, and just to keep these time limits in mind, I think we should also talk about, like, we have spoken enough about the factors and everything, but what are those factors, and how do those factors differ from company to company is something that we could probably talk about in the time that is left, unless you guys have something else which you are more curious about, or which would make more sense to you, or which is more important to you right now. But otherwise, we'll move on to the discussion, where probably all of us, being in different size of the companies and having different experiences, can talk about what works for a 0 to 1, 1 to 10 10 to 100 company, and also keeping in mind what kind of customers we have. Do we have low touch customers? Do we have high touch customers? Do we have medium touch customers? Because that is very critical according to me in deciding the product that you want to go for. So any other question that you'd like us to answer first? Okay. So, all right. So when I say low touch, medium touch, and high touch, of course, it depends on the MRR and everything about the client, the logo, the MRR, and how engaged the client is. But how does it change your, I'd say, decision about going for a CS tool is what I'd like to know. Because I've seen a lot of people who have high touch customers wanting a tool to automate all the workflows, which I don't think is the right thing, because with high touch, you can't just automate all the engagement modules and just expect to receive a response on a email template all the time. And I've also seen some people who, and this is one mistake that probably I also did some time back, that my accounts were not requiring that great a touch because they were all small accounts but large in volume. So on those accounts, low touch engagement but more automations would have made more sense. That I learned the hard way. So I'd like to ask all of them if they feel that there is any difference in selecting a tool when your company size is small, medium, large, and your engagement is low, medium, and high touch? Or is it just the same, like one tool can do it all for you?
No, I think I agree with you. It's not the same at all, for sure. Right? So for example, imagine if someone is paying you $1 million every year. Let's say Hotstar is your customer and they are paying you $1 million every year, and they themselves are servicing 15 to 20 million customers on a event by event and daily basis. So as a CSM and the tool that you are using, the way you would want to configure, it obviously would be more hands-on, more relationship driven, more white glove treatment that you would give to your customers, and the QBRs and EBRs that you do and the value that you show, even if it's automated or not, will be very different from handling 5,000 customers at scale, giving you $100, $200, $300 MRR, right? So obviously it's different. I would say, and I agree to you, the treatment should be different because the MRR is different and the way they are putting their trust in you is different, right? Also, any company today, as you all know, will use 30 to 40 tools in general. Like you mentioned, you can use CRM, right, instead of a CS tool in the beginning. A lot of people, even at 5-10 million, they still use the CRM and marketing tool, integrate it with the support tool and use it as a CS tool, right? So then comes what she mentioned. What are your priorities as a company? What does your board want out of you? What is your NRR, right? What is your churn rate today? What is the target of churn rate that you see end of the year? So I think a lot of these small things which are specific to you, your company, are you B2B, B2C, right? Your line of business, the geographies that you serve in. Handling customers in India is very different to handling customers in North America, right? And in Europe for that matter also, right? If you've worked with Chinese customers and Japanese customers, you would know that they are very prompt, they are very demanding, right? So I'm just saying every country has its own way of working. So whatever you do, whether it's a tool that you are using and in different phases of your business, I would say just go with what she mentioned very clearly. What is your problem statement and how you want to solve it? Do you even need a tool for it or not? And if you do, then what will solve your 1 million ARR business problem versus 100K ARR business problem, right? So yeah, I would say it really is different.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Utkarsh. In fact, what I also think is most of the CS tools have started looking the same. It doesn't matter which one you go with. I think there will be one or two specific processes that you know that you will need to win, right? So, like for example, you might, and again, it also might be dependent on your like team people, like your team skill sets. Okay, like for example, if I have to start like implementing a tool, okay, and if I know that I have a insane 10x engineer who is at my side, who can implement whatever whatever I want, right? Then I'll rather go for a tool which integrates really well with APIs, and even if it has less features, I know that I have an engineer who can hack his way, right? So I think it depends on your context. It's very, very contextual, and usually there is no right answer. I think a trend I am trying to see right now in SaaS world is a lot of even new companies are kind of going towards just whichever is the most well-known tool in the market. That's simply because, and it's not just SaaS tools, it's also about consumer products as well. A lot of things are gravitating towards, whatever is just the most well-known. And then you have someone who just helps you hack your way through it. Okay, so the answer is always contextual. It's okay to start off with a tool and then make mistakes all the way. But I think one more important thing is just share your learnings with your team. So if you are making a decision to go with one tool and then you realize that it's not working out, you have to let your entire team know and see if they can come around with workarounds or something, right? Because as we discussed earlier, changing the mindset of end users is not that easy. So if you think that a tool is not working for you, but your team thinks that, okay, no, everything is working fine for me, probably you don't need a change. But once you and your entire team is aligned that, okay, we need to migrate to a new tool, then you can start with a new tool. So what I will say is basically start with any tool, whichever you are most comfortable implementing right now, whatever can can help you achieve your targets as quickly as possible. Then learn on the way and keep iterating as you grow. That's the only thing that I see works right now.
See, from my perspective, right, it's like this. See, when you want to go, let's say you're a bachelor or a spinster, you want to go for a breakfast, right? You're not going to think of going to a 5-star hotel. You will just maybe think of going to a Darshini type hotel, just have a breakfast and go back to office. But probably once a month, you might want to take your family to go to a 5-star hotel or probably a special place, right, with special cuisine. Similarly, it's with the customers, right? I mean, what we do from our perspective is that we have various categories called basic, guided, advanced, and total. These are the 4 typical categories that we have. And obviously, if I'm going to talk to a low-touch customer, like the way you're putting across, I'm not going to talk about going for an advanced or a total solution. Because, first of all, the mindset of Indian customers particularly, by the way, is that tum log bahut English baat karte ho. Okay, that's the standard kind of response that you would get. So it's important that you try to still understand the pulse of the customer. And again, I'm also talking English, but it's try to understand the pulse of the customer. Try to understand what is it that one thing that he or she really wants, right? And here I'm saying from a service provider, okay, as a partner, I'm talking about from the other side of the world, right? It is important that you are able to showcase that is going to deliver value to the customer for you to buy this digital experience, or in our world, like the customer success tool, right? I hope you're getting it. I'm talking from the other side, right? When I'm talking to my customers in terms of buying this product. Second of all is try to create that stickiness. When I say stickiness, it's important that it's not to create a fear within the customer organization, but it is to let them know that without me, they cannot survive, right? And again, maybe I'm choosing the wrong words, but it's not creating a fear, but it's about making sure that that stickiness is there, that and it's more of a collaborative effort in making sure that the right support is provided and so on. So I think that's how I look at this entire scenario. So, yeah.
So I'll probably just add to one more real life example that we experience in our journey, right? So to your point of to be able to continue to reiterate and learn and grow, I think is very important as well. Like for example, when we started out, we were measuring churn back in the day with number of accounts churned. 6 months down, we realized this is not the right way to do it. Then we said, okay, we'll track, the real churn in terms of MR or in terms of dollar. We were not tracking downgrades. And obviously, then we realized 6 months later again, okay, we have to also include downgrades in our churn. I'm telling you 7 years, 8 years backstory, right? And at the same time, we were, like she said, CSMs talk to customers in silos because they would make phone calls, they would write emails, not everything is logged. We faced that problem. And then we created workflows to deploy those shared goals or QBRs or EBRs and also put it in the tool, the link of the Google like presentation or whatever, right? So the idea is that while you go from 0 to 1 or 1 to 10 or 10 to 100, you will face your unique set of challenges, some of them which others would have faced in journey, some of them would be unique to you. So hence, to be able to learn, iterate, grow, understand, and ensure that thing is captured in whatever tool you are using will also ensure, I would say, scalability and long-term success.
So basically, to conclude, I think there definitely is different set of treatments that you give to different set of customers. First, segment your customers into low, high, medium. The segmentation is very important, whether you're using a tool, whether you're using a CRM, whether you're using Google Sheets. The segmentation is the key. Like if you have segmented your users based on your organization, based on your product offerings, I think half of the job is done. Then devising the treatments for these segments, like what will work for this particular segment vis-a-vis the other segment is very important again. And then go into the market and see what will help you provide these treatments more efficiently. Like that should be the order, in my opinion. That's one thing. The second thing is that, and probably not the second thing, but the last thing that we would like to talk about, or and which is more objective, because I think we have thrown a lot of gyan already at all of you, is what according to you and what according to everybody else, like I'll keep it open to everybody else also, because this is where we would want all of your experiences. What according to you is that aha moment or the first success milestone or the first thing that you would want to achieve if you start implementing a CS tool? It could be different for different people, different industries, everything different. Like it could just mean having your data at one place. That could be your first initial milestone. It could be getting a visibility. It could be like bringing your teams here. It could be doing set of activities on the tool. It could be automating the first email response. It could be creating a report dashboard. It could be anything, but what would be the first success milestone for you when you start using a tool is something that all of us can, in a one-liner, talk about, and then we can conclude. Is that okay? Anybody has any questions before we dwell into that? Okay. So I'll give it to Utkarsh to tell us any one or two things that he would want to get ASAP on, go live with as soon as possible. He implements a success tool, and then probably some of you can volunteer and help us pick your brains.
Right. So as you said, there are many things, exciting things that one would want to see. But I think back in the day when we did it, I think the most important thing for us was to capture engagement with customers in one place, because as I said, different teams are using different methods and tools to talk to customers. And as a CSM, when you don't have context of what someone else promised before you or in parallel when you weren't around, I think was very painful. So for me to capture all the engagement from all our customers in one place and to be able to have that 360 view was amazing. Obviously, there is reporting, there is a good dashboard that you can see. And another thing that it was not an aha moment day one, but probably 12 to 16 months down the line when the system matured and we got product insights, we got data from our CRM marketing tool, to be able to devise a health score against a customer and see it working, see it predicting correctly was another aha moment or a moment of pride for all of us. Because it was very new back then. So I would say these two things among the many other things that you have mentioned.
I think I think the first time you see value, I don't know how to put this, but I think after you have had like several CSMs interact with customers and all that, you start knowing patterns that if these 4 or 5 signals, show these kind of things, that means everything is all right with the customer, right? It can be a combination of usage plus NPS plus, I don't know, geography or ACV, whatever, okay. There can be multiple parameters. So I think my first moment of value, okay, and there will be several moments of value, but the first one will be, once I know that whatever values are considered important are, are now showing up in the tool for my CSMs to see and also act on it, right? So if all the parameters are there and the data is coming correctly for all customers, that will be my first like victory moment. Okay. And then there will be subsequent moments of value. Like for example, I think a later moment of value can be the first churn avoided by looking at the data, right? So that can be long term, but I think that's a separate discussion. But I think in the beginning, let's have the key parameters in place reliably for all customers.
I think most of you guys already covered all the points. From my perspective, first thing is, I think there are three things that you need to focus on. One is, does it meet my customer needs, right? I mean, whatever product that you talk about, keep first the customer in mind, and it's very easier said than done, okay? See to it that your customers' requirements are met. Number two, is it meeting your requirements? Because you have to make sure that the tool is enabling you to make sure the customer succeeds, right? Because end of the day, you're also using the product. And the third and most important thing is, does it even support your vision? Because one is meeting the requirements on an immediate need basis. Other thing is, you have a vision that after 5 years, I would want my product to, or my success to be in X ways or Y ways. Does this tool meet that requirement? The last point, obviously, is 24/7 support. That's it.
Yeah, 24/7 support is definitely very useful. So to conclude, I think getting everything together at one place is surprisingly, is common to all of us, that we would want everything to be put together at one place so that our teams can have the right visibility. And just to add on top of it, I think after we have everything, that's a basic, that's a basic requirement that everything should be there at one place. But the delight moment for me would be to see the trends once everything is there. Where my bandwidth goes is to capture trends out of the data. Like even if I put everything together, but what do I make out of that data? Like how do I capture trends good enough to be leveraged for customer success or to be used is what I look forward to in a platform. And if a platform, and right today, like platforms are becoming so intelligent that you just feed data and they'll give you the early indicators of churn, they'll give you some trends, they'll even capture the seasonality based on the industries of those customers. So if you can show me that, I think, you have me for long in your team or as a customer. So yeah, so to conclude, I think we have captured some points around what makes a tool successful for us. But I'll again go back to the same thing, that we should not get enticed by the number of options we have in the market and how everybody is running after or using one tool. It may not just, it may overwhelm you and your team if you are not at the right place at the right time instead of helping you get more efficient. So just first know where you are at in your journey and then go for a tool which fits it better instead of just having one for the sake of it, I'd say. But if there is anything else, if you feel any other way, or if you have used any other platform that worked for you surprisingly well, we would love to hear about it. So I'll keep it open for all of you for 5 minutes, and then we can proceed, I guess.